Nvidia today reached, for the first time of any company in history, a $4 trillion market cap. And this made me think back in time to something that I wrote in July of 2017 that was entitled, Tech's 5 biggest players are now worth $3 trillion.
Wow.
And I find it whimsical that at the time, Nvidia wasn't even one of those top 5 companies, and is now worth $4 trillion, which of course is 1/3 more than all of them were worth 8 years ago now. Wow.
Yeah, which to my earlier point, when you worry about competition in the space, here we are. If I were to tell you 10 years ago to rank the top 5 companies by market cap, Nvidia wouldn't be in anybody's list. And here we are. It is the number 1 company by market cap. And AI is what's driving that. And obviously, the hardware is such a key component of all this currently. And if we sit here 10 years from now, I can guarantee you Nvidia will not be the number 1 company. It'll be somebody else will, make their way onto that list or even be the largest. But wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. And it seemed like it was waning and people were thinking, maybe Nvidia had its peak and now here we are. The public markets are driven, I think, in a major way by retail investors, and retail investors, or certain stocks obviously, are driven by retail investors. And this is one of them. Retail investors really believe the AI story. They really believe the Nvidia story. And I don't think they're wrong. I think the reason they believe it is because they use these products every day and they get so much value for them that they're remembering what happened, 15 years ago when they started using Airbnb, Uber, and DoorDash. Or they're remembering 30 years ago when they started using the internet writ large, or maybe for most people it was 25 years ago. They're having that moment where they're like, yeah, this is changing my life. I should place a bet. And AI is changing people's lives.
So just to put this into perspective for folks, Jason, this is a chart showing Nvidia's lifetime share price. And as you can tell, if you go back in time to the 2000s era, it's trading at effectively nothing because it's gone up so much. And there you can see it reaching the $4 trillion number. What I wanted to point out, though, is that this is not a stock that's getting increasingly expensive in terms of its price to sales ratio, or as we say in the startup game, its revenue multiple. So Jason, here's a chart showing Nvidia's price sales over time. This is a shorter time frame. This is just kind of like the midpoint of 22 through today. But as you can see, the price sales ratio of Nvidia peaked actually in kind of mid 2023 and has since come down a pretty material percentage. So not cheap for sure, but certainly not increasingly ludicrous as the company scales and as the company grows. So that made me rest a little bit easier about this particular milestone. There's not folks losing their mind.
It was trading at 40 times there. I think if you look at the chart, 40 times revenue, and then now it's at 37, I think. Is that what I saw there? 27. So 40 times, 27 times. It's a big number, but it's still growing a massive amount year over year. What's the growth now year over year?
So in the current quarter, analysts expect Nvidia to turn in about $45.5 billion in revenue. And according to our calculations, that's a 51% growth rate. And then for the next quarter, they're expecting
year over year.
Yes, thank you, Jason. A year over year number. And then the year over year growth rate should slow, according to analysts, to 47% in the third quarter of this year. So it's slowing down, but I mean, its revenue base is so large, growing at 50% is staggering. Microsoft grows at like 14%, 15%. And that's great for a company that large, but this is just still ludicrous growth.
Pretty impressive.